Okay,
Sorry.
there we go. Hello, everyone. I need to get I don't know copyright issues, so I always just play the music that's on here, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty jamming, but we need rockin' one.
Exactly.
Welcome to the show today, everyone. It's time for another NFA Money Talk, and you know that every week I'm here. I love to dive deep into all things money. Often the things that people don't talk about in building a business, the fears, the ups and downs, the perceived failures that might happen that then we grow from and learn from, and money blocks and things like that. And our goal is always to help you know that we've been there too, on our way to six figures, breaking through six figures, on our way to seven, whatever the number is with the guests that I have on. It's bringing tips and tools for you to feel like, oh, cool, I got this too. So we have Caroline on today, and I'm so excited. We're going to deep dive into a whole bunch of fun money conversations and business conversations. First, let's start with a juicy question about money fears, let's say. What would you say right now is a current money block that you're breaking through? Something that's like a current money fear that you have?
Well, there's a few, but I would think it's always like quieting the little girl in me, the 5-year-old,
Ooh,
and telling her we're okay. It's okay. Because I
okay.
was raised with all of these, old stigmas of like money doesn't grow on tree. You were born for a small bread. They have this and you can congratulate them, be happy for them, but that's not for you. That's not what you were born for. So I think it's always the idea of, a bit of the imposter syndrome of like, do I belong there? Of course I belong there. So the adult in me needs to parent the child and tell her, we're okay. I got this.
I love that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, for me, it's those fears and those like those thoughts that are coming up.
Yeah. Do you have a place where you notice they come up a lot? I think that every guest I've had on, I think there's a variation of that. And I know I have had it too. And it's like a wave, it comes in waves. Sometimes I'm like, I'm totally good. I got this. And then other times I'm like, shit, I'm terrified. And I feel like a 5-year-old. So
Yeah.
are there things that trigger it for you more that you notice?
I think when I forget that I'm an adult, and that may sound very funny, but sometimes I always felt like a teenager in me. Like I'll look at my kids who are adults now, and I'll be like, "Wow, they're my kids!" Like I raised them. And then sometimes I'll walk in front of a mirror. I'm like, "Yep, approaching 50," but in my head, I'm still, that teenager. So if
Yeah.
I meet people that are intimidating or older or look, like they have it together, then that's a trigger for me because I feel like the little girl sitting back in front of, like sitting in my seat in front of them and being like, I just want to talk, so.
Yeah. Wow. I think it's fascinating that you say this. And I always love the serendipity of the guests I have on because this week I do dispensa meditations a lot. Do you do meditation?
I try.
Okay. So maybe I've been really diving deep into like daily long meditations, and Joe Dispenza has a whole bunch of good ones. And so one of them, he does like this change process. And one of the things he has you do is like, look at old ways of being. And then in the end, it decide to change. And then you see yourself as the new way of being. And that was what I worked on this week, was like letting go of the little girl feeling of like and it has to do with imposter syndrome, right? It's like, somehow I'm not as good as other women, or I'm not as adult or mature. Like there's this, and I journaled about it quite a bit this week. It was like this feeling of, I wonder for me if it comes from like a marginalized history where like I was the only brown kid in school. And, so like I've always felt kind of less than. And so I think it caused some of that for me in my adulthood, especially being poor for a lot of the years of my adult life. It was like, oh, well, somehow if I don't have as much money as other people, I'm less than, and it makes me feel immature. And so
Oh, yeah.
it's something I was working on.
100%. And I just want to add that also, like I'm the baby of the family. So my
Me
siblings,
too.
I'm the fourth one, and my siblings are all 1 year apart, and I'm 5 years after. So
Whoa.
I didn't follow the sequence. But to this day, I feel like when I say something, if I give a parenting tip or anything, it's like, oh, it's Carolyn. She's so cute. Like I'm the cute one,
Yeah.
because I'm the baby. And I feel like we don't lose our rank. at any
Yeah.
point. You're always the baby. So that's another thing that, you know, we need to work on. It's like,
Yeah.
no, now it's like we're all equal. It's
What
not.
would you say for you? I mean, thank you for sharing. This is awesome because it's like, I think this happens. I think we think it's just me, like we'll go like,
Mm.
it's just me feeling this way. And the more people I talk to, it's like everyone feels this way in some variation. What for you, what's the reframe? Because it sounds like what I'm visualizing when you said that is like this little girl inside, like being like, take me seriously, people. I feel like that sometimes too. So what's a reframe for you? Like, how do you navigate through it to empower yourself?
Well, honestly, I had to do NLP. I had to really do brain reprogramming to understand that there is a little girl in me, accept her, embrace her, instead of always like thinking like I just want to grow out of that. I just want to be something else. Like instead of
Yeah.
putting it as as something that I want over with, embrace her, love her. She is a part of me, and understand that I'm an adult now. And it's parenting the child in me. Like if I would parent my
Yeah.
daughter, talk to her as I talk to my daughter. So, and for me, that was quite a process. And, that all comes with, everyone has self-esteem issue at some point, or,
Yeah.
self-love issue. Well, that's all a part of it, because we are a complete thing. We are the baby in us, the little girl, and all the stages that we went through. So
Totally.
the reframing is really, no, I'm an adult. I got this.
Yeah. I got this. I'm an adult and I've got this. Okay, you hear that, everyone? I'm an adult. I've got this. Sometimes it's just I've got this. Like I've got this. And it's noticing in that moment, like I feel small, I feel young, I feel out of control, maybe whatever it is. For me, that's usually what it is. It's like I feel less than often. It'll be like, oh, I feel small. And then it's like, I got this. And I love myself for who I am, like just love yourself for who you are and
Yeah.
bring that to the world.
And I'll
Yeah.
give you a little tip here that I started a few years ago that for me, makes a lot of sense. I started an achievement list. So,
Nice.
because, whether it be that you were the president in your university or whatever, I feel that as we go in life, we forget what we've done in the past, and we're always in the moment. And in that moment, we feel like, how will I do this? And then you need to remember, I built a campaign of millions of dollars. Like I can do this. I got this.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
kind of forget. So that list of achievement, like, is a great list to go and read. And I'm not just talking money achievement. Like if you have a child, that's quite an achievement.
Yeah.
Achievement things.
Yeah. Yes. That's awesome. Powerful tip. So on your achievement list, do you include, so not just money, it could be like parenting or past successes, things like that.
Yes. Well, parenting is a big one for me.
Yeah. You said
Especially
you have
now
three
that,
three babies, right?
yes,
Okay.
and two are adults.
Okay.
So one of my achievements is that I brought them to the age of adult, and they were not attacked, abused, or, traumatized by any major events.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Yes, I love this. What you're pointing out that's important to do is what you focus on expands. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, am I going to focus on the feeling smaller? Am I going to focus on my past achievements and build more of that so that I keep attracting that into my life and just owning your power? I really think I think a lot about like what does coaching actually do for people? And in the end, I think the overarching theme is like confidence. It gives us confidence to feel good about ourselves because when you feel good about yourself, you can create anything.
Yeah.
Like the sky is the limit when I think of confidence as to know, love, and trust yourself. Like that's my definition of it. And when you have that, everything works.
Yes. And
It's
I feel that for me, coaching brings accountability.
yeah,
So the accountability of not bashing myself, of loving myself, not just like you have the accountabilities all for goals and, deadlines and all of this. That is pretty much a given when you get a coach. But for me, it's really the personal accountability, of how I talk to myself, how I think about myself, all of these
yeah.
things. It's super important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is important because I think not everybody knows. At this day and age, I feel like most people know what a coach does and they have some idea about it. I think sometimes there's some misinterpretations. And so, what would you say are the top 3 gifts you bring to the world as a coach?
Support, accountability, and I help people dive in who they really are, not who I want them to be, who they really are. And I feel that when you talk to a coach that you don't know, it's not like talking to a friend. You'll be more honest, and the coach come like they're pretty much non-judgmental if it's a good coach.
Yes.
So they will take you as you are and work on your, well, me, I prefer working on people's strengths instead of like trying to erase weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, and there will always be some. So for me, I'm more thinking about like, what's your strength? Let's focus on it and let's grow it. And so I think it's really, that's what I bring. It's a bit more than 3, but
yeah. Okay, that's great. Let's go there. Share a little bit of your story before. I always like to have you give 3 tips to help other coaches and entrepreneurs get to 6 figures faster. Before we go there, what's your background? Like, tell us a little bit about you. I know you have everyone has their story of why they decided to do what they do in the world. So I'd love to hear yours and have you share it with our people.
Well, it's funny because in my family, everyone has a title. And I've always felt like I had no title because, I went to study in accounting at university, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. I did a full year and I wanted to die. I was just like, I can't. So I ended up going in administration and marketing, which is the definition of like, you don't know what you want to do, so you go into general. So I've always struggled with the fact that I had no specific title. And I went in business doing a bunch of different roles, but now with hindsight, it was all like in management, it was all in project development. So that's where my strength is, and really working with people, bringing people together. That's one of my strengths. So I did that for about 20 years in corporate, and I did some sales as well. And at some point, I really pushed myself to burnout. So I had this big job, this big title, responsibilities. Yes, the salary was amazing, but it always comes with consequences. And I had my 3 kids, and I was a volunteer for my kids' soccer, hockey, this and that. So I was the super mom, or I was trying to be the super mom, but me personally, I wasn't doing well. Like I was so tired, and I would, have my glass of wine every night to cope with all the stress. And also for me, it was a way of staying up later and being able to work later and catch up. So one day all of this crashed, because you can sustain that until you can't anymore. Your body will give up. So I just went into the realization that it brought me to a drinking problem. So I had to stop drinking, stop using the sleeping pills. Even though they're legal, they're very addictive and they're not good for you. So I came to a turning point in my life of like, okay, what is success? Because there's many definitions of success. So for me, success was more being happy, having enough not to be poor, because I never want to be poor again. Having enough to provide for my kids, but mostly being, at peace with myself, which for me was a huge challenge, because I'm very demanding towards myself. I'm a perfectionist. I have ADD. Like I can give you the whole list. It's like, there's a lot. So I just wanted to be at peace with myself, and also just take myself as I am. And someone approached me with network marketing. And, I had this attitude of like, don't talk to me about this industry. Well, this time I took the time to listen and to really research the industry and do my homework. And I started in that industry 10 years ago. And for me, it changed everything, because it's an industry also that comes with a lot of personal development. Like it's essential if you want to succeed, because your business will never grow bigger than you are. So I started diving into personal development, and I loved it. And so I'm still in network marketing, and now I started publishing book on the industry, because I really think, it's an even level playing field for everyone. What you need to have is desire and, yes, guts and work. But I've never been afraid to work. So for me, when I understood like, what? I can get paid for everything that I do instead of like, enriching another CEO. for me, it was like the light bulb went on, and still here now.
Yeah, that's amazing. So many things you said in there that I want to dive into. One thing you said, and because I want to hear a little more about, like you said, having enough to not be poor. So where you share a little there, where, because I know that, like, same for me. When I was on food stamps, I was like, I got to start a business. I got to make more money. Like, I'm tired of this working. I was working my butt off, as a graduate instructor at the university. And then I went into professorship for a little while. It was like slave labor wages. It was horrible. I was like, I'm never going to get out of it. I'm not even going to be able to pay my student loans back. I couldn't get out of subsidized housing, and so will you share a little bit about that part of the experience?
Well, I was raised, quite poor. So, for us, raspberries were once a summer, and it was a treat.
Yeah.
And to this day, when I give a cup of raspberries to my kids, I'm like, enjoy it. And they're like, Mom. Enough to get by for me is to buy the food you need, to have a roof over your head. And my biggest dream was to buy a house, because I've always lived in an apartment. So that's where I wanted to get. I wanted to get to a point of like buying a house. And, to this day, when I walk in my house, it's not perfect, but I'm like, this is mine.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. So yes, but that always comes with some stress, because when you keep yourself there, you always have enough. And I always did what it took to have enough. I would take 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I know I will never be in the street, but I needed to stop that stress of, just making it, just being over broke. Like at the end of the month, you make everything arrive, but you're like, oh, it's like every month is a battle, because you're like, okay, the 30th is arriving. Are we making it?
Yeah.
So getting out of that for me is, losing the feeling of being poor, and then starting to save money. That for me was, it was such a joy and a new thing that I never understood before. I was like, why would you put money in the bank? And then when I started, the feeling you have of having a cushion is incredible.
Oh, so much better. Yeah. So it was similar for me. And it was, thank you for sharing. And I still get that feeling of like, month to month, living just enough, always getting by, but never flourishing. Mm-hmm. And that feeling of like, but I want to go on a trip, and I don't want to worry and stress about money, and, and not knowing quite how to get out of that. And then as you start to save and change your money habits and things start to change around you, you're like, oh, it was this easy the whole time. Just little incremental shifts in the way that you do things. So you said you write books for the network marketing industry, and I know you have several bestsellers. Is that right?
Yes.
That's
3
so cool.
as of now. Thank you.
High fives.
I don't write them, I compile them. So basically it's anthologies where I gather, well, there's one coming out in September, but it's going to be 22 powerful women in network marketing revealing their success. So I'm gathering the 22 authors. I may take a spot for myself. I haven't decided yet, but so it's really women who talk about their journey in network marketing, their obstacles, how they achieve where they are now, because it's basically all 6 figures earners that are at the top of their company. And what I like about it, and what I really go and look for, is to be very authentic in the way you're describing your story, because people look at top earners thinking, oh, she or he is an overnight success. And no one is an overnight success. Even if you start in a new company and you have success like right away, it means you had experience somewhere else.
Yeah. So
it's really people sharing honestly how they got there and giving their best tip.
That's amazing. So when you started writing books, was that something that you were taught to do, anthologies and piece things together? Or was it just like, this sounds fun to me and I'm going to go with this inspired, direction that I'm choosing?
It was really funny how it happened. It was me and a business partner of mine. We were on a podcast and the person asked us, so what's next for you ladies? And she's like, oh, we're publishing a book. Yeah. And then when we got off, I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, you know what? I had this dream that we were publishing a book. And then when she explained the idea, I didn't even know what an anthology was before.
Yeah.
Um, I absolutely fell in love with the idea. And then, we did some together, and then I moved on my own. And now I'm on my own.
That's cool.
She's doing it on different subjects. So yeah,
It's such a great way to go because, I think people overcomplicate business in general and even books, podcasts, all of it. They overcomplicate it. It's just like, start with something that feels inspiring, take the first step and just see what happens. And how many books in now?
I have 3 out.
3. Okay. And then another one coming in September. That is awesome. Okay. This is so great. Thank you so much. So you do all kinds of awesome stuff. So author, you have a podcast, network marketing, like you are a powerful businesswoman. So will you share with people watching and listening 3 tips to get to 6 figures faster? So, what are the top 3 tips you can think of that would help people build their business to 6 figures faster? And when I say faster, I like to highlight, this isn't about overnight success. Just like you were just saying, like it doesn't work. It doesn't work to plant the seed in your mind that like, I'm going to have overnight success. And if I don't, I'm going to beat myself up and feel frustrated and stuck. If you're in the business building game, it's a long-term journey, right? Like it can be a really fun roller coaster ride, or it can be a really stressful roller coaster ride, depending on your perception of it. And so, when I say get to 6 figures faster, it's like, these are tips to help you optimize yourself along the journey, not thinking that you're going to get there overnight, because I don't like to promote that thought either.
No, and you really need to learn to discipline your disappointments. That
Yes.
for me was the biggest thing, because I'm very impatient and I want everything yesterday.
Oh, me too.
Well, I'm going to share with people like one of the book that changed my whole life philosophy. It's such a simple book and powerful. It's called The Slight Edge. That's the first book I read from my personal development. And it's really just about, doing the small things every single day creates a compounding effect. And that's how you achieve success, or that's how you fail. Your life is not linear. Every single decision or habits that you have bring you up or down. So up to you to choose, like, where do you want to go, but being aware of it. And, it's like the best example is that if you want to lose weight, if you go and eat a big juicy burger today with fries, you won't necessarily gain a tons of weight. And if you eat a salad, you won't necessarily lose a tons of weight. But if you do that every single day, on each side, there's going to be a big difference.
So it's those small habits compounding over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, so that was my first thing that I really applied. And
okay. Real quick, we have, let's because this isn't in response to what we were talking about. So people overcomplicate business in general. Hi, Zamba. Thanks for being here. They also oversimplify business. Where that happy in between balance is, I'd like to know. I don't know that people oversimplify business. I don't know if I can agree with that. Do you think they do?
Well, some do in their ideas, of like, I'll do this and this and it's going to work. I think that people forget the component of work. When you oversimplify business, there is work. I don't think there's anything that we see so much on the web and things like that, like do this and you'll make money overnight. There's no such thing. There's always work involved. And there's always discipline involved. And actually, for me, the thing of finding the balance between overcomplicating things and oversimplifying things was time management. And I always portrayed myself as a rebel, not following the rules and wanting to do it my way and, having issues with authority. So for me, planning, organizing, and time management was all associated to authority and to, feeling like I was constricted into something. Once I let go of that thought and realized how much it was helping me to plan on a daily basis. So every night before going to bed, I plan my day, my next day. Every month before the month begin, I plan. So for me, that removed all of the anxiety. It makes me feel even more in control. And that's how I can actually achieve stuff because I can look at it, I do reverse engineering. What's my goal? How long is it going to take? And I break it down and I bring it back to basically daily. And that for me brings the balance, because when you start doing that, if you say I want to make $1 million in 5 months, well, that's 200 grand a month. How are you going to do that?
You have a plan for that. I see what you're saying. I like this. Thanks for the clarification for Zamba's question, because it's like, to me, I often see people making it way more complicated because they're making this huge puzzle out of what they need to do instead of just taking the small steps. But then you can also oversimplify thinking, I want $1 million business, and they have no plan, and they don't even know. Like, if I ask someone, what's the monthly income of $1 million business, and they have no idea what that is, like, I know because I'm on my way. I go, like, I know exactly, it's $83,334 a month. Like, that's where I'm driven. Like, I need to know that, and I need to have it broken down into a plan. Otherwise, it's just an oversimplified dream, is what I think he's asking there. So that's a great answer. So The Slight Edge is a book, everyone. And the concept there is small steps daily. And I really like this. I'm sure you've read Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yes.
Similar concept, right? It's like, just take small steps. A 1% degree change every day leads to huge changes over the year. And I know it sounds like you too. In my life and my business and my money, this is exactly what I did. 4 years ago this month, I was on food stamps. I graduated with my PhD, hadn't even launched my business. And that was 4 years ago. And now I have a growing 6-figure business on my way to 7 figures. And I don't know when that exact day will be. And I go, like, I'm on my way. I'm taking the steps. I'm being strategic. And I know at some point that's the inevitable path, because your success is inevitable when you do what Caroline and I are talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah. And congratulations. Like, it's a huge achievement. You say that, and that sounds very simple. Like, 4 years ago, I was on food stamp. Now, it sounds very simple, but applying the right discipline and the right strategies and the right plan to get there, that's not that simple. It can be simple, but you need to have guidance and you need to know what you're doing. Definitely. And the thing is too, like with simple habits, they compound. So what you did 4 years ago, if you keep the same habits and you do them every single day, then the success that it brings just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So powerful. Everyone needs to rewind and listen to that every day and pay attention to that. That's where we do overcomplicate it. It is actually that simple. Like, if you just go, like, I'm going to take 1 step today, 1 step today, 1 step today, you'll get there, and you could take 10 steps if you choose to, but at least take 1 and at least just, get into your mind the clarity of what you want, take steps in that direction, and just let the universe open the doors for you. Things have happened in my business that I could have never planned for, because I was taking steps, and the universe was like, okay, cool. You're dedicated. You're committed. I'll bring you more opportunities. And it just keeps growing from that place. Yes. Awesome. Okay. What would you say is tip number 2? And I know you tied some in there. Time management was in there, so that might be
time management was really my tip number 1 or 2, but yes, that's a big one for me.
Do you want to talk about that one? Because time management's a big one. So we could put this as tip number 2 and talk about it, because I think people really struggle with time management as entrepreneurs.
Yes. What would you? I actually developed a planner for that, because there was no planner that was actually, answering all of my needs. But yes, time management goes to, like I said, I will think about, first of all, you start with your 5 years vision, and you have to be like super clear on what you want, and you write a day in 5 years, how is it going to be? And you need to write it in the present tense and feel it in your bones. Like, if you're like, I'm walking on the beach, well, you need to feel warm and the sun. And so the more you feel it and the more you live it, the more it's real for your brain. And it's like, okay, that's where we're going now. That's pretty cool. And then you take that 5-year vision and you'll take it down to 1 year. So in your next year, what can you do to go in the direction that will bring you to your 5-year vision or your 5-year dream? And it doesn't mean that it's going to happen in 5 years. It just means that you are on your way to making it happening. And then when I take like I said before, I take my year, I break it down into quarters. And then I break my quarters into months, my month into weeks, and my weeks into days. And every single night before going to bed, I look at, and actually I do it like at supper because my brain is a bit more awake, but I
Mhm.
look at my day coming the next day. And I even color code my meetings and all of that. Like pink is my personal, so that's massage, stuff like that. Or my kids' activity. Green will be like what brings in money. Blue is my, anyway, I'm not going to go through all the colors, but you get the idea. So I'm very visual. So for me, when I look at my week and my day, I have a good idea of what's coming. And, you always have to have your basic. So in network marketing, you need to prospect. Yes, that is part of it. You need to talk to new people. And my mentor always said, talk to 2 new people a day. So when I started, I was just like, this week I'm talking to 40 people a day. I'm just going to fast track all of that. Well, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But that's how I was striving. So I've learned.
Were you able to do it for a little while?
Well, maybe 2-3 days, but then after
Yeah.
your follow-ups,
burnt out. Yeah.
nothing works because it's not sustainable and it doesn't make sense. So 2 a day makes sense. 5 days a week makes sense, but it's so mundane that you're like, that's not how I'm going to get rich. That's so silly. But yes, guess what? That's how you're going to create success. So, I have that in my planning of every day. I have that. Reading a good book, 20 minutes, listening to a podcast, my physical activity. So I find place in my day to put it. And these are non-negotiables because these are like, one is my self-care, my personal health. The other one is my business. So I want both. You find place. And the trick that I will give everyone, don't ever plan more than 60% of your day. That too, when I started, I'm quite extremist. I went in and I was just like, 8:15, 8:30. And guess what? The minute that if your coffee is not ready on time, you're already late in your day. So then it's just like major stress. And then your kid calls you from
brilliant.
School. Yeah, your kid calls you from school.
I love that you're saying that. Yeah, because I do that. Exactly what you're saying. It's like, oh, I'm trying to show it here, but let's see. Hold on. I got to scroll this because this is just so good. Okay. Don't ever plan more than 60% of your day. If that is something you take away from this right now and you live it, like, that's a bomb of awesomeness for time management, because you're right. I think what most people do is they pack their schedule full and then they beat themselves up the second it gets off. And that beating themselves up causes a snowball of just things to go awry for the rest of the day. Then they end the day feeling low energy, like, crap, I didn't do it again. I don't feel good about myself. Then they pile it onto the next day, and then it just stacks and stacks and stacks and feels like you're constantly under this weight of a mountain, and it doesn't feel good.
The other little tip I have is, don't ever put more than 2 or 3 to-dos a day.
Yeah.
And if you're an overachiever like me, you're like boom, 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 boom. And then it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to achieve them. And exactly like Amanda said, at night, you will beat up yourself. So never more than 2 or 3. But these, again, are non-negotiable. You don't go to bed until you did them. You know, and like for me, approaching 2 people is part of my 3 things to do.
Well, and to me, it sounds like you're very wise about what you choose to do with those 2 to 3 things. It's highest ROI activities, right? So the reading is a higher ROI activity because you're investing in yourself and aligning your mindset and your energy. And then you're going, okay, calling the 2 prospects a day is going to get me 10 prospects calls a week, which is then going to actually turn into however many per month, which is so much more sustainable than, like you were saying, oh, I'm going to call 40, then you don't really do it. And then the month goes by and you've actually called like 3 because the stress of seeing the number 40 was so overwhelming that you never did it. Brilliant. I love this. These are great practical tips.
Another thing that my mentor really taught me is I used to go to bed, and especially when I was a single mom, beating myself up pretty hard, like, oh, I didn't, give enough quality time. I didn't give this. I didn't, name it. The list was so long. And it's like, instead of that, when you go to bed, think about 1 thing or 2 or more if you want, but at least 1 thing that you did during that day that moved you towards your dreams or towards your goal. Because we all did 1. And if it was that you just stuck to your schedule, that's a huge thing. If it can be anything, but just think about 1 thing positive that you did to move you in the right direction instead of beating yourself up with what you didn't do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you see this a lot? I know you must, because I see it with my people I get to work with a lot too. It's like the problem of beating yourself up. And most of it is from putting too much on the plate. It's like high achievers are go-getters. They put way too much on their plate. And they usually, the interesting thing is, like, let's say in work life, someone is kind of cracking the whip when you have a W-2. You have to finish that stuff. When you start your own business, you get to manage your time. So what I've noticed is that usually high achievers, they keep that, it's like cracking the whip on themselves. And building a business is such a long-term process. And if you're trying to do it all at once overnight, you're going to go to bed every night beating yourself up. And so you've really got to focus on the wins. So what Caroline is saying here, everyone, super valuable. Like, if you go to bed at night and you're laying in bed and you notice yourself kind of going like, I didn't get it done, here's my to-do list, just tell yourself real quick, just stop, change. I'm going to focus on the one thing I accomplished today that made me feel really good about myself. And then go to bed like that. And you're actually programming your subconscious mind to feel better the next day. And the more that you do that, like we've been saying, that's that 1% habit that over the course of a year, you'll wake up feeling really good. And when you feel good, you're more magnetic to money. So it's like this positive effect all the way around. So it's really cool. I love it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. You've given many more tips than 3 already. So what would you say is your third tip that's beyond time management?
I would say that the third and last one should almost be the first one. It's personal development and self-care. It's all about you. And I remember when my son was a baby, he was little, he was a preemie, so he was like 4 pounds. And 5 pounds when I took the plane with him. And I heard, about the oxygen mask, put it on yourself before your baby. And I was sitting there thinking, like, she is so cold-hearted. Like, what kind of mother would she be? And I had all these judgments in my head. I was younger too, but now I totally understand that, because if you don't have enough oxygen, guess what? You're not going to be of service to your family, your kids, your friends, your business, and yourself.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And actually, I've heard that so many times when I was younger, like even the gym, if you want to go to the gym, it should be in your schedule. And I was just like, whatever, they don't know what they're saying. Like, I'll go when I have time, which means you never have time because there's always something else.
Yes.
So yes, you need to plan your self-care, and personal development is crucial. Like I always joke with my kids when they say something like, oh, why this, why that? I'm like, don't worry. I have a fund for you for school and a fund for therapy. So you'll be good. You will need therapy one day. I just don't know why.
I love it.
Yeah. So self-development is really about also like, first of all, reading different perspectives, understanding different things. I just listened to a Brené Brown audiobook of Atlas of the Heart.
Uh-huh.
And I absolutely loved it. First of all, she reads it herself, so she is so good. But it's the 87 emotions, human emotions and experiences. And, like, she'll take fear and she describes it in a way that you didn't hear it before, like we haven't heard it before. So it just helps. Reading and knowledge helps you understand yourself, and it can also help you course correct at any time. And, if someone spent 200 hours writing something instead of going and doing the same things, just read it.
Yeah. It blows my mind. Like, I love to read. I read several books a month. I mean, maybe 10, like between listening and reading, like I'm always digesting new information. And sometimes I'll listen to a book multiple times, or, and I get really like down a train of a certain way of thinking. I'm like, oh, I want to read every single thing on this topic. And the cool thing is, it's like, it saturates your brain and trains it in a direction. And if you just get one idea shift out of one book, you've changed your brain permanently. It's like, it just takes you thinking in new ways. So everyone here, whether it's listening to podcasts, listening to us on NFA Money Talks, it's listening to audiobooks, reading books, like going to lectures, watching YouTube videos, like this stuff changes you from the inside out. And that's where it is really simple. It's just, you've got to learn new things in order to get a different reality. If you keep doing what you've always done and thinking what you've always thought, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten, right? So to me, I agree. Personal growth and development, it's like, that's the essential core that is absolutely a must if you want to master your life, master your money, feel really good doing those things. So,
and again,
good tips.
Before starting this, I was just like thinking about reading a book a month. That's just crazy. I don't have the time, name all of the excuses in the book. I said them.
Yeah.
But instead of that, I started planning 10 pages a day. And literally at
Yes.
first I was looking 10 pages, and the minute I was done, even if I was in
Done.
the middle of something, I was closing my book.
Yeah.
Well, that's, 300 pages a
Yeah.
month. So you're pretty close to a
A
book a
book.
month,
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
which is and that's awesome. And I don't want anyone here to think I love to read. It's one of my favorite things. Learning is my highest value. So and my whole business is built around like learning new stuff and teaching new stuff. So, me reading that many books a month, that is not what anyone else here needs to do unless they choose to. There was a program one of my clients was in, and it was like they were doing this like challenge, and the challenge was to read 2 pages a day. And I was like, that's awesome, because if you're not reading at all, which the average person doesn't after they graduate high school. God, my daughter and I were listening to this book on Audible when we drove to San Diego, and I cannot remember the exact stat, but I think it was something like only 10% of people buy books after high school. And I was like, we were blown away because we're both big time readers. We were like, what? How is that possible? So it's like, start with 2 pages. Start with 1 page even. You could set a timer and start with 5 minutes and get however far you get. So don't overthink these things and make them to where it's like, oh, books, they're awful. Just start. And then I would imagine, Caroline, you notice like as you got into it more and more, now you're like hungry to read more than 10 pages.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I love my reading. Like I sit down sometimes and I'm like, I schedule time. If I have a lot on my schedule, I'll be like, okay, I'm setting a timer for 10 minutes because I have to control myself from overreading. It's funny. We have a couple questions that came in, so let's address those. So let's see. Speaking about time management and planners, when you feel you have to change, adjust, or replace an old plan, how do you know to actually do so? And this is, let's see, given you've missed out on more advanced fundamentals, which if not employed can be debt or health issue inducing. Not quite sure what all that means. Let's go with the question. When you feel you need to adjust a plan, how do you know to do so? That's a great question. Let's answer that one. What would you say for
I
that?
think that, if you started, first of all, a plan should be attached to a goal. And if you, like in the planner that I'm using, there's every week I plan my week, and I also have a weekly review at the end. So, and whether you have a planner that does that or not, it's just a good way to function. When you put a goal, it's not just writing it on a piece of paper. You have to evaluate, where did you go into that goal? And it's okay if you went 50% of your goal for that week, then you readjust for the following week. But being able to measure your achievement is going to give you a really good indicator of, is your plan working or not? Because if you're always like at 20% of achievement of your plan, well, maybe you're over planning. Maybe you need to, break it down, and instead of achieving something in 1 year, put it in 2 years. But I think that also like a good coach could help you, planning within your life and within your restrictions. But yeah, my best advice would be looking at the achievements. So if you do a plan, always do a review after and see how it worked and readjust.
Yeah. I'll add, for me, I adjust plans when something feels off. Like my whole life is built around alignment. Like I wake up every morning and go like, is this bringing me joy? And if it is, I keep doing it. And so, I make my plans pretty short, because I always make adjustments based on how I feel, because I know that in manifestation, when you feel good, things come to you more easily. And so and here's why. I used to make plans that were like, let's say a year-long plan, and I'd have that mentality like, hell or high water, I'm getting this done. And I would, I would accomplish it, but I would get to that place and not feel that good. And so now I'm like, my whole mantra is work less, make more, have fun. Like all of that says feel good, feel good, feel good. So my plans are always created around, does this feel good? What do I need to adjust? And, just like Caroline's saying, like, that means you got to reevaluate. You got to evaluate every day. Like at the end of the day, what did I do that worked? What didn't work? Make an adjustment. And so, just simple things like this. Thank
you for adding that, because you know what? In the past 10 years, I've done only what I really like. So I forget what it is to be sometimes in a situation when you're not aligned.
Yeah.
But yes, number one is to feel aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah. Instead of forcing. Like we want a life of faith, flow, freedom, fun, instead of like force, fear, frustration, lack of flexibility, those things. Okay. I know people are going, let me make sure. I think there was one more question. How do you know to change your schedule on your own and not someone else for their circumstances? So I think that's a very similar answer. It's like when we're thinking about changing your schedule and not when someone else or other circumstances dictate that. Such an interesting question to me because other people don't dictate my schedule. I don't let other people dictate my schedule. So that would be my advice there. How can you be more masterful with your reality? Yet I know that if you're working a job or something like that, then you are.
I was going to say that feels like someone who has a job. So, when you plan and you have a job, if from 9 to 5 you're at work, well, 9 to 5 is basically blocked in your planner that this is your work planning. But really stick to that 9 to 5. If you need 2 hours at night because you work from home at night, well, plan that as well. But then until you don't have that restriction anymore, plan around it always. So you have your before, you have your after, you may have your lunch hour, plan around that if it's a restriction.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what I wanted to say is that if you have your own business or if you don't have a set schedule, being proactive is the whole difference to being reactive. When you're reactive, you feel like everything is controlling your schedule, the traffic, your kids, your boss, your this, your that. When you plan ahead and you plan in a realistic way, you own your schedule. And it's also learning to, and yes, you can laugh, I have time now that I look at my text. Because otherwise I used to let them go. And for me, it's like a dog with a squirrel. I'm like, squirrel, squirrel. Totally. I always lose my focus. So I realized at some point, my phone is controlling me.
Yeah.
I need to put the do not disturb, and I look at it when I have the time.
I'm going to add this. Okay, this is such a powerful conversation that I hear over and over and over again. People feel like they're a victim of their time. So, ask yourself, am I a victim or a victor of my time, right? So are you a victim or a victor of your, I have an extra word in there, not your time of your time. This is so powerful because, and yes, of course, when you have a job, you don't always get to dictate every second of your life. You get to determine, how do I spend my lunch? How do I spend the morning routine? How do I spend the evening? How do I optimize my time within the workday so that I feel good? Setting reminders to do I teach people little 2-minute meditations to just do throughout the day, just to get realigned, readjusted. And what will happen, especially if you're someone who's here watching this, it means you probably are interested in having a business where you get to be completely in control of your time. So you've got to start becoming a master of your time now, and then you get to create the life you want instead of thinking you're a victim of your time and everything else is controlling you. And so it's really starting to just do the little things like, how could I master my time here? How can I master my time here? And how do I let go of this idea of I never have time? Because I know you probably hear this all the time, and maybe you've had it in your past where it's like, there's not enough time, there's not enough time, there's not enough time. And that's just a scarcity limited way of thinking because you're the master of your time. Everyone has the exact same amount of time in the day. I think about big players in the world where they're doing amazing, huge things. They have the exact same amount of time as all of us, right? And so we just go hey, I'm going to be the master of my time. And then my time becomes really powerful. It's the greatest resource we have is our time.
Yeah, and disciplining yourself to follow your schedule.
Yeah.
If you wrote that you're going at the gym, well, even if you're tired or there's a rerun of Friends or whatever, you go to the gym. That's when you write it down and you write a realistic schedule, it's non-negotiable.
Totally.
Don't negotiate with yourself maybe I could go tomorrow instead. No. And that, for me, that was my hard, that's what I was rebelling against. But now I've accepted that I am my own boss. So I need to listen to myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So many good tips today. Wow. This has been amazing, Caroline. Will you share where people can find you? Because I know they're going to want to connect with you and I want to be sensitive. We usually end these shows around 45-ish minutes and we're already over that because this has been so valuable.
Well, so simplycaroline.com.
Awesome.
I'm on all social media.
Okay. And when they meet you there, what will they find? How can they play with you in the world?
Well, my very first page, there's you can book a discovery call with me. So, I do some coaching. I'm also in network marketing. So basically, a discovery call would allow us to see how we can work together or how I can assist you.
Awesome. So if people are looking for a good business, this is something I love about network marketing. It's like a business in a box. It's like, hey, you've got this whole thing set up. You don't need to start from the ground up. Yeah, and then you're tapped into a really cool community of people who are like-minded and into personal growth and development and are entrepreneurs. So you have an opportunity there. And then also for coaching. And then she has podcasts. What's the name of your podcast?
Simply Caroline.
Simply Caroline. So everything Simply Caroline. So go hang out with Caroline. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah, love it. And thank you everyone else for being here. Check out, if you're watching not live time, you'll see a link to a video down below. That's the NFA Money Talks playlist. There's tons of great information there for entrepreneurs who are driven to get to six figures and beyond and have a heart-centered business where you make money doing what you absolutely love. So check out that playlist. And until next week, NFA Money Making High Fives. Thanks for being here, everyone. See you later.